So this video is going to be for parents of older teenagers who are thinking about joining the Army National Guard. By the end of this video, you should have a good understanding of what you can do to help them make a good decision. All right, so the first thing that I would recommend is understand that if your child is 17, realize that this is the only time that you really have any say-so whether or not they join the military. You can sign your child over to enlist in the military at age 17. Typically how this happens is they can go in their junior year. So after their junior year of high school, they can go to basic training, come back, finish their senior year of high school, and then go off to AIT. The whole time it would be, they will have started their enlistment contract. Doing this is cool, and in the long term, they can retire a year early. Other than that, there's not too many benefits to it. Especially if you're a parent that's on the fence about your child joining the military at all, the power is in your hands to sign them over. Understand they will be experiencing peer pressure from their friends who have made this decision with their parents or guardians, and that could be something that's their selling point. Well, you know, so-and-so did it, so I want to do it as well. And they'll tell you about all the benefits of the military, which are there and they are true. And the other side of that is they will be there next year when they're 18. Personally, I joined when I was 17. My mom signed for me, and that worked out for us because just the way our family was set up and the prospects that I had, joining the National Guard at 17 was a good decision for me and my family. But if you are a parent whose child is 17 and they want to join the military, there's nothing wrong with taking that year from 17 to 18 and studying up on the military, studying up on the different branches within the Army National Guard, and finding out what would be a beneficial career decision instead of joining because of the benefits or because their friends did it. They can actually go in with a plan. That's something that I'm a really big advocate for, is taking that year between 17 and 18 and studying, because the kid's going to have to take an ASVAB, right? The ASVAB is the Armed Services Vocational, there's a FedEx truck outside, the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. And that is the test that goes through different subjects and finds out, you know, where the kid's strengths are and where they could be placed, what jobs they qualify for. Generally speaking, the higher the ASVAB score, the broader the opportunities the recruit will have going into the military. So if you take that year and get some study material specific to the ASVAB, which there's tons of study material online, local bookstores, there's big fat study guides that take you through different subjects and give multiple practice tests within it, and dedicate that year to learning how to boost your ASVAB score. Then studying, you can work with the recruiter to study different branches, different placement, and understanding that, hey, we have a high ASVAB score, we have a career path projected, and it's much easier to make things happen when you have that high ASVAB score. Also, if you're on the fence about your child joining or you're against your child joining at 17, that's a conversation that could definitely be beneficial to have at ages 14, 15, and so on. And just like a little reminder of, hey, military is something you do after you're 18 and you can sign for yourself. Because if a kid is dead set on joining the military at 17 and the answer from the parent or guardian is no, 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 it's almost a guarantee on that kid's 18th birthday, they're going to be in a recruiting office signing up. So to combat that, spend time educating your kids before they even turn 17 or 18. And if everybody's cool with joining the military, then they would have a better option going in with the higher ASVAB score and a career path, knowing what they're going to walk into. Otherwise, if they wait until they're 18 and go join out of spite, they may not know what career field they want to go into, and then go take the ASVAB with a potentially lower score than if they had studied specifically for the ASVAB, and then get career placement in a job that they don't enjoy, and then they're stuck for the next 4 to 6 years in that one position, and then they have a less than ideal military experience. So a lot of that stuff can be handled up front. So to answer the question, should you sign for your kid to join the military at 17? That is your decision. But if they wait and take that year to prepare, the success rate will be higher, and the quality of career will be much more. Also, you won't have any nagging thoughts in the back of your head like, oh, I shouldn't have done this. You know, if you just go ahead and set your parameters, hey, I will not do this, and I want that to be your decision when the time comes. It's just better open communication on both sides. And you know, when they're 18, that will be their sovereign decision to make. Also, myself, I have 4 children. They're still very young, so we're not, you know, discussing joining the military yet. But would I sign for my kid to join at 17? Currently, no. Like I said, I joined at 17. It worked out for our family, but I want my kids to, you know, go out and make their own decisions. That 1 year is not going to make a difference in their career, and it's just always, in my experience, better to go into things more mature. So if they're coming out of school 18, college isn't what they want to do, workforce isn't what they want to do, and they have a good military plan, which if my kid tells me at 17, hey, I will be joining the military, well, guess what? Let's start planning for it, you know. But that's not something I'm going to sign for. The next thing I would advise a parent to do is to participate in research. Research the different military career fields with the kid. If your kid seems to be dead set on joining the military, your combined interest will and support for them will just make them feel like there's less resistance. Because the more resistance a young person feels about a decision they want to do, is like, hey, I want to rebel against that. My parents, especially if they weren't in the military, you know, hey, my parents weren't in the military, they don't know what they're talking about. So and so already joined and went to basic training, he's got a new car, you know. So if you're on the same level of military knowledge as your kid, then you guys can have these conversations, and when things pop up, you'll be better educated to combat things like outlandish claims. Like if your child comes back and says, hey, I'll have 100% of my college paid for. Well, then you can come back and say, well, actually, I've been looking into it, and you have to do a certain amount of active duty time in order to get 100% of your college paid for. And there's also different college payment programs within the National Guard. So let's look into that together. You know, and that it doesn't diminish what the kid thinks they know, but it opens that door for opportunity for both of you to learn and find out, oh, is this the best thing for us? Together, you will also learn about recruiting tactics. And there's nothing inherently bad about recruiting. Every business has recruiters. It's just that you want to make sure that you're looking at the overall picture of joining the military, what you're getting into or what your child's getting into for the long term, and find out, is this the best decision for us? Because any recruiting element of any sort is going to focus on all the good things. For instance, if your child wants to be a mechanic but there's no mechanic positions open, and they say, well, I can join as a truck driver right now and then later on transition to a mechanic. Yes, that can happen, and it has happened before, but is it common? That's the real question. Like, how guaranteed is it? And it's not guaranteed. Once the recruit comes in and is qualified as a truck driver per se, they're going to be put in a truck driver position, and then when they want to do a transition to a different MOS and learn a different skill set, it has to first off get approved by their command, but the command is also looking at, will I benefit from having another mechanic, or do I need to have truck drivers in my truck driving company? You know, that's just a vague example, but it's a real one that it should be considered. All right, another option for if your kid wants to join the military is you can encourage them to wait. Like I said previously, that 17 to 18, year gap can be used as prepare time, and then they get to make their big girl or big boy decision to go join the military. But also, the military is there before your child, and the military is going to be there after your child. Life is long and the world is big, so there's nothing wrong with waiting. As long as the recruit, as long as your kid, doesn't get an injury where they can't use their body physically, and they don't get in any legal trouble, they should have no problem joining the military well into their 20s and even 30s. So that's also something to consider. All right, so let's say your kid is definitely joined the military, everybody's cool with it, and they join the Army National Guard. How long will your kid be gone? Well, basic training is 10 weeks, plus the time that it takes to their advanced individual training. So basic training is structured on taking a civilian, teaching them the Army life and how to be a soldier. There's basic warrior tasks and drills that they'll learn, operating a radio, some triage medical stuff, shoot, move, communicate, just soldier stuff. And then they move on to their advanced individual training. Depending on the type of job, advanced individual training is going to be shorter or longer. So it's going to be 10 weeks plus their AIT time. This is objectively a long time. For anyone who's never been away from home for a long time, it can be pretty stressful on the family and pretty stressful on the recruit. But what I do have to say is you as a parent can rest assured that your kid's going to be safe. All Army training, especially basic training and AIT, is extremely standardized. There's formal risk assessments that have to be approved up the chain of command, and we've been making soldiers for years and years and years and decades and decades and decades. So everything that your soldier is going to do is going to be regimented, is going to have a risk assessment done. The old adage was, no news is good news. If you don't hear from your kid, that means everything is fine. Nowadays, everyone has cell phones. There's way more connectivity, and from what I understand, in basic training and AIT, at a minimum, they get their phones at certain times throughout the week, and they'll be reaching out to you. Now, it won't be as frequent as typical regular life, but they might be able to call and check in. But rest assured, if you don't hear from your kid, that's cool. If you do, the reason we say no news is good news is because the Army would have to reach out to the family point of contact if there's an emergency. So if you don't hear from anything, that means everything's going fine. Another big hurdle for parents is going to be once they get done with advanced individual training and they're in the National Guard, what's military life like? Well, in the Army National Guard, when your little prince or princess finishes advanced individual training, they're coming right back home to you. So that is a huge benefit and a big selling point for a lot of people who join the Guard. You do get formal Army training. You get the full Army indoctrination into how the Army operates, and you get qualified as a soldier, and then whatever career field they go into, they'll be qualified for that. And they have a career to manage now, but they'll be coming right back home to you. The flip side of that, on the active duty side, is once a recruit signs up, they go to basic training, go to AIT, then they get a 4-day pass, and then they're on to their new assignment, which could be states away or in a different country. So that's the biggest benefit, or the biggest difference between the National Guard and the active components. I'm sure if your kid's thinking about the National Guard, they've probably looked into the active component as well. So for you as a parent, you know that once they finish training, they'll be coming back home, which means they can still enroll in school, they can still start that job they wanted. So if that's a benefit for you, the Army National Guard might be that might be a selling point for you as a parent if your kid's thinking about that. So what's my kid getting himself into with this basic training stuff, right? So basic training is the first week of it, week or so, first few days, is a lot of travel, medical stuff, in processing, tons of paperwork, immunizations, and then the following weeks they'll be put into their basic training company, which they'll spend the next 10 weeks there, the full deal. And then during that time, they're learning all those basic soldier skills I talked about, rifle marksmanship. They'll learn different weapon systems. They'll learn basic life-saving medical stuff. Learn how to operate a radio. Trauma first aid. That's what I was looking for, is first aid. I kept coming up with every word except first aid. How to navigate through the woods with a map and a compass, and do tons of physical training. You can think of it as a semester of extreme college, because they will be gone. They will be with their friends, because they're going to make friends immediately, because everybody's like, oh my God. It's the coolest part about basic training, is you can take somebody from the woods in Mississippi, like me, and put them with an urban kid from New York City. And we're now put in a place where neither one of our backgrounds matter, and we have to learn this Army stuff. And then that really blossoms a lot of friendships. And then, you bring in your personalized background, and because you had the shared experience of basic training, they get lifelong friends that way. But I digress. Kid's going to be getting 3 square meals a day. It's usually a hot breakfast, MRE for lunch, and then a hot dinner. And the food's good. Your kid's going to be eating good. If they go in underweight, typically they're going to come out of basic training and AIT with more muscle mass. They'll be a lot bigger than the last time you saw them. And if your kid goes in overweight, typically they're going to come back a lot more lean. So either way, Army's going to deliver you a good, healthy citizen soldier back. AIT operates like a extreme technical school. That's going to range from like the base level infantry. You're going to learn more soldier skills, more tactical soldier skills, and there's typically not a lot of deviation from basic training at AIT with infantry. But if your soldier is like in a cybersecurity MOS, then they'll be moved to a less stressful environment, more technical training, more classroom focused training. Still a soldier, but different job set. This classroom training is going to be accompanied with probably more free time, so you'll hear from them more often, and it's just technically focused. If your child's already in AIT, then they've already been medically cleared. They've already got their ASVAB scores to where they need to be. They've passed basic training. They're in AIT, barring some sort of extreme test failure or disciplinary action. They're going to be good to go, and they're most likely going to graduate. Back to the original thing about joining when you're 17. If you have a good understanding about what your kid is getting into, they join the Army National Guard. Let's have this conversation. I don't know if this happens throughout the Army, or it just happened because we were in the middle of the Iraq-Afghanistan thing when I joined. But when I was in basic training and AIT, we had a liaison come in and told us that, or they offered us the opportunity to go to active duty. Not every soldier is joining the Army. Not everybody's joining the same component of the Army. So you have the Army Reserve, Army National Guard, and active duty Army. Then this liaison came in and said, hey, anybody Reserve and National Guard, if you want to transition to full-time, you can change that and we can have you a full-time contract today. It's good to be aware of that is a possibility. And if you have, if your child has life things that are, hey, they're supposed to come back and do a job interview and get this good job. Or, hey, we have a family trip we're planning. It's a huge family deal. Or, hey, we agreed that you're going to come back and go to college. If you have some preset plan like that, this is a conversation to have with them. Like, hey, you join the National Guard. Here's your 6-year plan, and it's possible for you to change over while you're there. Do it or don't do it. You got to have that conversation with them. My last piece for this is that if your child wants to join the Army National Guard, biggest thing you could do is support them. And even if you don't want them to join, you can be supportive by providing information and good reason, but still taking them into consideration and their desires and what they want. And you have to work together to make that match up. And if you're just absolutely opposed to it, instead of saying, no, 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 that's not right, we can't do this, it's good to come with good information and say, hey, here's my opinion about it. I really don't want this for you. But like we talked about, if they're 18, they can join on their own. And if they do, don't let that be something that splits you apart. You know, if the decision's already made, whether you're for it or against it, support is huge. Family support is huge. Now, each basic training class and AIT class are going to have a graduation. I would say definitely try to make it to as many graduations as you can. Almost every class that they will attend after AIT has a graduation as well. So you can, but especially for basic training and AIT, once you know your soldier is going to sign, you'll get all the dates for when they're going to end. You could plan a trip to whatever base they're on. Every base has hotels, and so it is worth saving money to travel out and stay for their graduation. They're gonna love it. Seeing that family support is a huge morale boost for the individual, and it's good for the other soldiers who don't have family coming. It was awesome just to meet my friend's family, you know. So that type of support is extremely important, being there for them. They're going to be super excited. They're going to want to show you, like, hey, come over here. This is the PX. This is where we hung out. This is the PT field where we ran all our miles. They're going to want to introduce you to all their drill instructors and other instructors that taught them throughout the way. That is a big deal, and that's the thing that you can do as a parent to support them. That's obviously not everything, but it's a good starting point. It should answer some questions. I really appreciate you watching this video. And if there's anything else that you would like to know, leave it in the comments, and I'm trying to build a video library of information, but I don't necessarily know what people want to know. You know, I've been in the National Guard for 17 years, so I got a good bit of experience, and I've seen most situations play out, and I think there's a positive way to handle most everything. So thanks for watching.